Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show.
You're listening to The Tom Daniel Show, and I'm your host, Tom Daniel. Hey, you know that campfire song, Kumbaya, my lord, Kumbaya? Of course, everybody knows it. It feels like it's just always been around forever. A simple tune, sort of universal. But what if the story behind it is really surprising? Maybe even a little bit comical, but definitely not what people think. That's what we'll be doing on this episode of The Tom Daniel Show, getting deep into where Kumbaya actually comes from. It's a really fascinating history with some really important lessons. So our mission here is really get into the heart of the song and, importantly, try to understand a little bit about the Gullah people of the southern coast. This is a classic case of how not understanding cultural nuances can lead to big misinterpretations, and that's exactly what seems to have happened here. The Gullah people live primarily in the low country of South Carolina and coastal Georgia. Historically, their region stretched from about Wilmington, North Carolina, all the way down the Atlantic coast to about Jacksonville, Florida. And although traditional migration diluted their presence in other places, they remained numerous in South Carolina and Georgia. The Gullah are descendants of Creole-related African slaves from Central and West Africa, and that isolation, particularly on the Sea Islands and coastal areas, meant that they held on to their cultural authenticity. They're known for having preserved their culture incredibly well. Because they're relatively isolated geographically, they have this really strong sense of their own heritage, and a lot of their customs, dress, arts, language, music are remarkably intact. They are not people who studied anthropology, learned about their African ancestors in a classroom or on YouTube, and then recreated some kind of crowd-pleasing cultural highlights. Oh no, the Gullah are the real deal. The Gullah still talk the same way, still make baskets and quilts the same way, still perform the same songs and dances as their ancestors. More direct African heritage is preserved by the Gullah than any other ethnic group in America. And many words from various Central and West African languages still remain a part of Gullah dialect, and you can easily hear African linguistic elements in their speech. Their accent is uniquely iconic and, unfortunately for many Americans, impossible to understand. Now, while Southerners are used to the African-flavored drawl so common to the Gullah, Northerners struggle with it. And that gap in understanding is central to the heart of this podcast episode about the Kumbaya story. One of their enduring musical traditions that was retained incredibly intact from African heritage was something called the ring shout, which was a call and response type of song chant. It is a traditional religious ritual that is one of the oldest surviving African-derived spiritual practices in the United States and represents a powerful blend of West African traditions and Christian worship. Participants move in a counterclockwise circle, shuffling their feet, never lifting them fully off the ground, clapping and sometimes tapping sticks or using other percussive instruments. The name ring shout comes from this circular motion, not from shouting. Although voices are raised, the word shout refers more to the movement and expression of the Holy Spirit. One person, the leader, sings a line known as the call, and the group responds in unison. These songs often include biblical references, messages of hope, and expressions of resilience. The rhythm is central to the ritual. It reflects African musical traditions and sets the pace for movement and song. Participants may enter a trance-like state, believed to be possession by the Holy Spirit. The ring shout was and remains a communal experience meant to foster unity, uplift the spirit, and connect worshipers with God and their ancestors. By the way, how is this any different from a simple reproduction of an authentic African chant? I mean, what makes this American instead of African? It's the blues. When you listen to an African ring shout and then listen to a Gullah ring shout, you hear the blues. The melody and harmony are performed with notes that aren't found in African chants, but are loaded throughout the blues. Southern music's like a big giant chemistry set that you got for Christmas as a little kid. Yeah, I wonder what happens if we mix African music with Creole and the blues. Well, you get this. You get the Gullah ring shout. Since the music features a mesmerizing chanting aspect, many outside the Gullah community thought it sounded suspiciously like incantations, and the Gullah became associated with voodoo and witchcraft. The Gullah people and the Gullah communities were avoided and shunned by anyone who didn't understand them, and the Gullah themselves kind of humorously approved of anything that helped them maintain their isolation. They played into it sometimes. If it caused folks to leave them alone, the Gullah were totally on board with it, and they comically enjoyed playing up the black magic aspect of their isolation. They embraced the fear and mistrust because it helped them to be left alone, which may be the most noble of all Southern aspirations. Just leave me alone. And that all leads us to another sacred Gullah chant called Kumbaya. When we come back, we'll discuss this iconic Gullah song, Kumbaya. You're listening to The Tom Daniel Show. We'll be right back.
What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniel Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniel Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniel Show.
Welcome back to the Tom Daniel Show. Well, there's yet another first from Mary Mac, a campfire sing-along version of our theme song. Wow, how do they do it? Mary Mac is the world's most perfect band. And we were talking about musical examples of Gullah culture, and I introduced one of their favorite sacred chants called Come By Here. The lyrics are simple and powerful. Come by here, my lordy, come by here. In this short audio sample, see if you can recognize another song hiding in there.
Kumbaya, somebody need you, Lord, Kumbaya. Somebody need you, Lord, Kumbaya. Oh, Lord, Kumbaya.
Once you listen, it's pretty striking how similar this recording sounds to the campfire song Kumbaya. However, he's not singing Kumbaya, but rather come by here with a thick Gullah accent. Instead of come by here, it sounds more like Kumbaya. Now, to a Southerner, that makes total sense, and the Gullah accent is not a barricade to understanding. I hear it every day. I get it. However, most Americans never really took the time to learn Southern dialects and accents and somehow heard the nonsense word kumbaya instead. Of course, there is no such word as kumbaya in any known language, as it is totally fabricated. but it was the best they came up with, so it stuck. So boom, right there, big misunderstanding, rooted purely in dialect and a lack of effort. By the way, the recording that I played is preserved on a wax cylinder stored in the Library of Congress. Come By Here was first recorded by Robert Winslow Gordon in Georgia in 1926 as an authentic and original chant performed by a local Gullah named Henry Wiley. However, 10 years later, in 1936, an evangelist preacher named Marvin V. Fry stole it and claimed he wrote it. Since Fry couldn't understand what the Gullah were saying, he named it Kumbaya. He explained that Kumbaya was it's an African word that means community, harmony, and togetherness. Very positive, very appealing, but also very vague. Which African language specifically? Swahili? Bantu? Niger-Congo? Well, Fry never said, and the Gullah never did and never have sung the word Kumbaya because the word does not exist. They always sang Come By Here with a Gullah accent. They still do. Now, in 1939, Marvin V. Fry copyrighted, published, and potentially profited from the song he'd stolen from the Gullah. Folk singers in the 1950s and 1960s like Joan Baez, Odetta Holmes, and Pete Seeger performed and recorded it regularly and pushed the lie of Kumbaya being an African word. But wait a minute, isn't it true that many tribes in Central and West Africa today know the song Kumbaya and sing it regularly? I mean, that's a fair point to raise. Doesn't that prove the word originally came from Africa? No, it doesn't, because culture flows both ways. That only proves that missionaries took the word to Africa after the song became popular over here. It is a cultural exchange, but going the other way. And what about that recording of Come By Here in the Library of Congress, dated 1926, that is the same words and same melody as the song Fry claimed to have composed in 1936? Well, since he would have been only 8 years old and in Oregon in 1926, it sure seems a bit suspicious to me, doesn't it? It definitely raises some questions. Members of his surviving family insist it's all just a big coincidence, and that Fry took the lyrics from a sermon delivered by his father and created the melody from inspirations of the African American spirituals floating around Oregon at the time. Oregon? Oh, didn't you know? Sherwood, Oregon, which has an African American population today of less than 0.1%, was apparently a thriving hotbed of spirituals in the 1930s. They were just floating around all over the place, ripe for the picking. Fry died in 1992 in New York, and in perhaps the juiciest example of poetic justice of all time, the nonsense word he fabricated has now become synonymous with the weak and the meek. Kumbaya is no longer associated with community harmony and togetherness. Nobody says Kumbaya as a compliment anymore. Now the word drips with mocking sarcasm. If somebody suggests an overly naive or sentimental solution to a problem, somebody else is bound to say, oh, let's just all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. It's a complete flip from its intended message of unity. And the ultimate irony here is that the word Kumbaya began as a misunderstanding and then evolved into a totally different misunderstanding. And the Gullah have probably never stopped laughing about it. This whole story underscores the richness and resilience of Gullah culture and language, and it's a testament to a heritage that is still very much alive despite everything. It definitely leaves you thinking. What other things that seem so simple, these cultural touchstones we take for granted, might have these kinds of complex hidden stories behind them? It really highlights how important it is to try and understand the real origins of things and how easily misinterpretations happen if we don't keep listening and keep learning. Thank you, everybody. This has been the Tom Daniels Show. Definitely keep listening, keep learning.
Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Take a break from your usual routine and tune in to the Tom Daniel Show. You'll discover the world of melodies and stories that you might not know. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniel Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniel Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom